Hello there, I'm Moringa Mark with the Herbs Forum, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about containers and what you need to start your plants in, what you need to grow them in, and really just talking about some of the options you do have when it comes to growing a plant. Alright, so I said I wanted to talk to you about containers today, and I mentioned that, you know, there's really an endless variety, size, colors, materials, uses, purposes for all the different containers out there, and of course I won't even scratch the surface, but I just wanted to give you an idea of some stuff to think about, especially depending on what your priorities are and growing your own plants. So let's start with the basics everybody is used to. If we see this one here, this is kind of what you're used to seeing at most of the retailers. House plants, porch plants, potted plants. This is just a plastic version. Of course, you may be a little more used to seeing the terracotta if you do a lot of outdoor plantings as opposed to the plastic. Things to consider when thinking about plastic. Now, usually you're going to do these for more mature plants. You know, you're going to reserve, and I'll get to these in a minute, you're going to reserve seedlings, plugs, and transplants to some of the smaller container type items, or you'll direct sow them. But this is what you're used to seeing a lot of potted plants. This would be great for outdoor thyme, for sage, for a lot of different plants. Something like this or a bigger one would also be great for more of the stuff in the mint family. Anything that tends to run and spread and is hard to contain. And like I said, tons of different sizes of material. All these have drainage in the bottom. That's another thing you want to consider when you're picking out your containers, is make sure it's got good drainage. Make sure there's no place for water to stand in the bottom, because you'll end up with wet feet on your plants and may end up with some root rot or some other issues. So that's the plastic containers, and let's just stack those up and get them out of the way so we can move on, because I figured everybody's familiar with those. This is one used in another segment. I was using for cucumbers because I didn't want to mess with the roots when I transplanted them out to the garden. So I did them in this and set them in redwood flats. Again, same on the plastic container. Now this would be more appropriate for something that maybe you started in this container and you're going to transfer it over to here and then transplant it to the garden. Again, stuff I've touched on in the past I don't like. It's plastic, so if you're going to use plastic stuff, please try to take care of it. You know, the sun will destroy it. And I get it taking care of it so it can be reused. I mean, you need to make sure and bleach it, get it real clean so there's no disease left over. You know, if you're in a commercial situation, I understand you discarding your pots or selling them or doing something because you can't afford to contaminate a huge operation. But individually, I don't think you can afford to keep throwing away plastic pots every year. I feel it's irresponsible and just leads to bad practices in gardening. And I don't think you'd be here listening to this now if you didn't want to have some good practices in gardening. This is the most popular thing you're going to see as far as big trays of plants, transplants. This is the base tray. You'll see different varieties and designs. The biggest difference between two is, does it have drainage or is it meant to hold the water? Of course, you can see this one's used. It has been washed but not bleached, so I'd be iffy about using this. This one's good. I just give it a rinse down. And then for the one that sits on top, there are endless numbers. This is one size of plug tray. If you order a whole tray of plugs from a nursery, you may get this. You may get something like this. And again, just like the plastic pots, they make all kinds of combinations. You know, 3 across, 4 across, 6 down, 8 down, 10 down, just all kinds of stuff. Let's walk over here and look. Oh, we're on those. We'll talk about these. I use the smaller cells for smaller herbs. I think there's, what do we got? Some stevia over here. This is a basil pan. And then as you get a little bigger, you're going to get some eggplant and tomatoes and peppers, and some of these medium and larger ones. Just depends on what I've got available and what I've got handy and how long I plan on them to stay in the greenhouse before they get planted into the garden. You know, if you're going to leave them, if you're going to plant real early in spring, which I'm behind this year, then you're going to want to plant in something a little bigger, and possibly even have to transplant them before then, because by the time it gets done, the plants, the roots are going to be filling up in here, and you're going to have a root crowding problem, and that's not good. That's not a good way to start your garden. So let's come over here, look at the redwood flats. Like I said, I mentioned another one. These are sourced from scrap lumber in the Pacific, Washington, California. They're great. You plant directly in them, or a lot of times they're great to put your pots in and carry it around and take out. The point of this is for them to last a long time, for them to use scrap resources that would otherwise just be laying around, thrown away, or decaying. And you're not buying new plastic containers every year. So, you know, I've only scratched the surface on the containers, but the point of that is, whatever you want to do, just think through it, hunt down what you want, and stick with it. And if something doesn't work right, if the roots are getting crowded, if you're not getting good drainage, there's another one that may look exactly like what you're using that works just as well. So keep all that stuff in mind when you're choosing containers, and have fun. That's the biggest thing. Have fun. Enjoy it. Thanks. Bye.